How's it going, everyone? Got Ernie's bro here, the coach of the Detroit Delibirds, back for Season 3 of the YCL Speed Tour. I participated in Season 2, really enjoyed it, made it all the way to playoffs. I think tied for best record going into playoffs, and then immediately lost in round 1. So back this year to try to see if I can make it even further. This season I decided, since Sin was so kind as to make that beautiful intro and also this beautiful overlay, that I would try and take advantage of the resources he's given me and upload this season. Before we jump into my draft, want to quickly shout out New, the owner of the YCL Speed Tour and one of the 3 commissioners, as well as the other 2 commissioners, Davey and Detective Butters. You guys have all done a great job in getting this set up and making last season and so far this season enjoyable for all the coaches, myself included. So, without further ado, I'll jump into my draft a little bit. So, I had to take advantage of the grace period, the 24 hours where I could change my team, because in round 4, you see here, I drafted Tapu Lele. That's not actually who I drafted. I drafted Scissor, and then instead of Drapeon, I drafted Guzzlord, and instead of Cobalion, I had drafted, what was it? Slurpuff. I drafted Slurpuff. And it was around when I drafted Guzzlord that I realized I had made a horrible mistake, as I was looking at the tier list and realized Tapu Lele was there, and I definitely had enough points to make it work, and my team was heavily lacking in a good, consistent fairy type to bring, as well as something that can come in and consistently break walls from Swampert. Zapdos can do that pretty well, but it's not going to be breaking everything. There's probably nothing in the game that can switch into a Specs Tapu Lele if the correct move is clicked. I know just from past experience that a modest Lele Psyshock 2 hits max defense Chansey. So it's kind of an absurd mon. So taking that over Scizor was big, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later. For now, jump into why I drafted what I drafted. So first off was Zapdos. I picked up Zapdos largely because, basically I wanted to try running a rain team, and I've run rain teams in the past and always just thought, man, I have Swampert Mega and I'd rather have Zapdos than it. So kind of just decided I wasn't going to run a rain team again without Zapdos. And also, Zapdos just in general, one of my favorite mons to use. It's so versatile. You can run it offensive, defensive, special defensive. And in rain, nothing can really switch into Hurricane, Thunder, and Weather Ball besides dedicated special balls like Chansey or Blissey. And even those I can then U-turn on, or if I'm running defog away, whatever, roost up. So it's just in general a really good mon, and in rain, not missing Hurricanes and being able to run Thunder over T-Bolt is invaluable. Also gives me the ability to run non-rain teams if it's a really bad matchup. It's not as dependent on rain as stuff like Swampert. So jumping into the next Mon, we have the thick-armed man himself, Mega Swampert. So, of course, if you have a Rain team, you have to run Mega Swampert in Nat decks. It's almost not worth, in my opinion, it's almost not worth running Rain at all if you're not going to run Mega Swampert, just because if another team has it and you have Rain, it's going to be better in the Rain than whatever you have. Its stats are so absurd. The only thing that kind of holds it back is its speed and being 4 times weak to grass, especially with things like Rillaboom existing. But besides that, Rain solves the speed, forcing fast Mons to run Scarf to have a chance at outspeeding it, and allows it, especially in draft, to run Adamant almost every week, or run plus defense natures, or whatever you want to run. It can serve as a really good physical wall, actually, if in certain matchups with stuff like Rest, Toxic, Stealth Rocks. It getting Flip Turn made it just that much better, just being able to create momentum when, if they do, whoever you're playing against does have something that walls it, you can Flip Turn out. It's, even outside of Rain, it's solid. In Rain, it goes from being worth the 14 points you see there to being probably up there 16, 17, like almost on the level of stuff like Tapu Lele. I guess I should touch on that. So the on the left next to the Mons, that's how much points they cost. I did use every single one of the points available to me. So there's that. But moving on, I had to pick up the only Rain setter that's really, I mean, Politoed's a thing, I guess, kind of, but it's so much worse than Pelipper just because Pelipper gets U-turn. And one interesting thing about the YCL Speed Tour is there's an item clause, so I can only have one of each item, which normally can be kind of annoying, especially with multiple flying types like I have. But because I'm always caught between whether I want to run heavy duty boots or damp rock or specs or scarf, a lot of weeks that'll be solved for me what I run on this thing, because a lot of weeks I'll want to run boots on Zapdos and either scarf or specs on Lele. So that'll let me just put a damp rock on this a lot of weeks, or if it's a week where I'm running Scarf Zapdos, then I can put boots on it and use it as a better defogger. So it takes a lot of that decision out of it for me, which I like, because I always feel like I run the wrong item on it, basically. So hopefully we can solve that, but we'll have to see. Moving on, we have Tapu Lele. This is my all-time favorite Mon to use in draft. So hopefully that goes well again for me. I think it's my all-time kill leader by probably double anything else. Partially just because I draft it so much, and partially just because when I do, it always picks up tons of kills. If you get it in at the right time, in certain matchups, it's every time it gets a free switch in, something dies. Which is kind of insane to think about. If they had given this thing expanding force, well, I guess then it would just be banned. So I'm glad they didn't, in a way, but man, that would have been ridiculous. But basically, this thing gives me a wall breaker. It also gets rid of other terrain, and especially in a team like that has Mega Swampert that's going to be so fast. A lot of stuff is going to be wanting to use priority moves to help deal with it, just to deal with the speed boost. Just chip it and stuff like that. So this can take care of that. Gets rid of stuff like Sucker Punch, gets rid of Ice Shard, Mach Punch. Bullet Punch isn't really doing anything to Swampert, but just in general, stuff like that, which is really, really good for my team. In addition to that, just basically being able to break anything that walls Swampert is not going to wall Tapu Lele. It's just not going to happen. So if I can flip turn on a switch to something that walls Swampert, then I can bring this in and get a free hit. And even stuff that quote-unquote walls Lele, like I was saying earlier, doesn't actually wall it. Can heal it off sometimes. Like if I'm not running specs or I click Psychic into Chansey and only do like 35 or whatever it is, it then has to either Wish Up or click Soft Boiled because it can't switch into even Psychic anymore. So I don't even have to click Psyshock and guess right. Or even Moonblast sometimes. And once that's a factor, then Lele can just click moves. So you know it's almost definitely going to click a healing move, so then I can switch into something else. And it just provides so much offensive pressure. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with this team, with my high tiers especially, was just pick things that would force the whoever I'm playing against into tough decisions and kind of either having to guess what I'm going to bring or forcing them to bring weird mons themselves to help deal with it. Beyond that, Tapu Lele can do stuff like Future Sight, which is one of my personal favorite sets with an Assault Vest. I love running Future Sight Assault Vest. It's really fun. Can also obviously run Scarf Specs. Sub Calm Mind can be fantastic. Gets Aromatherapy, which is underrated because a lot of times you really only need 3 attacking moves. So you can run Aromatherapy as the 4th move on a choice set, which is really good, especially if Swampert gets burned or something like that, just to kind of cleric up for it. Because that is one thing that I did not draft very well. My only cleric mon really is Lickitung, which is fine, but it's not something I'm going to want to be bringing to every match. I think it's value at 1 point, but it is 1 point for a reason. It's not a every week mon. So yeah, I'm very excited that Lele was there for the grace period and I was able to grab that. Really let me switch around my team quite a bit, and kind of adjust it to something that I like playing with more. Now moving on to a mon that I've been wanting to draft for a long time. Well, either it or its counterpart, Nidoqueen. So, Nidoqueen is basically Nidoking, but just a little bit bulkier. It's not going to hit quite as hard, but it provides a lot of hazard support that I didn't really have up to this point. I have good hazard removal, but no way to set them at this point. Besides, I guess Swampert can use Stealth Rocks, but I don't want to have to run that every week. So this gives T-Spikes, it gives Stealth Rocks, as well as just insane coverage, and gives me a ground type besides Swampert, which is really good. Beyond that, it just does the same thing as Nidoking a lot of times. It can run Ice Beam, Flamethrower, T-Bolt, Sludge Wave, Earth Power, even Rock Slide and Earthquake and Poison Jab on physical sets, which especially if I'm doing hazards, then I can run a physical set because it technically will hit harder with Poison Jab and Rock Slide. Yeah, and gives me a Grounded Poison, which at this point I did not have, just to not have to defog away T-Spikes. Yeah, in general, just it's a really good Mon. I've been destroyed by it before, which has made me really want to use it. So, looking forward to using this one. Hopefully I'm able to make it work. Rain could make it a little bit awkward just because it's already weak to water, but I think I have enough ways to deal with that, so I'm not too worried about that. I have 2 flying types, and I have Tangela also, which is an insane ground resist, so I'm not really worried about that. Yeah, in general, I think it should be set up on this team to do well, either as hazard support or offensively, and is a problem for a lot of teams to prep for. So very, very excited to be using that. Speaking of Grounded Poison and T-Spikes, we have my next Mon, Drapeon. This is another one of my most drafted Mons and one of my favorite ones to use. Having a Dark type is way, way more important than I used to think it was when I first started playing Draft. Stored power sets, especially right now, are so much more common than I remember them being, or they are on ladder especially. And having something immune to that, incredibly important, especially on something like a poison type where it changes a weakness to an immunity. Not resisting fighting is kind of annoying, could be an issue for my team, as Lele does resist, but a lot of fighting types get Poison Jab, and I really don't want to, and Knockoff, and I don't want to switch Lele into either of those. But this does give me a good way of dealing with stuff like Urshifu Rapid in Rain. If somebody tries to run Banded that against me with the ability Battle Armor. I can't remember if anybody actually drafted that Mon, but if they did, then this will help with that a lot, just getting rid of those crits. Also gets T-Spike support. Stab Knockoff is never a bad thing to have. Yeah, it gets Infestation. Trapping moves are one of my favorite things to use, so I'm looking forward to using this one too. A second good Grounded Poison is really nice. If there's a week where Nidoqueen doesn't want to come, then I can bring Drapeon. If there's a week Drapeon doesn't want to come, I can bring Nidoqueen. And I'll always be threatening T-Spikes, so my opponents will always have to respect that. It gives me another Mon that can run a Band or a Scarf. It doesn't love to, but speed is one thing. If I don't run Rain one week, my team is so slow. Cobalion is my fastest Mon, and my next fastest are Drapeon and Lele. So that's a problem for me. Well, I guess Zapdos is 100, but I don't have anything faster than Cobalion. So that is one of the things that I kind of messed up this draft, but Rain solves a lot of that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to using this. I think it provides a much better Dark type than Guzzlord that I had originally drafted. And one other thing I've kind of realized as I've been playing more, there's the Fairy Dragon Steel Core that everyone always talks about, and of those, Fairy and Steel are almost must-haves. If your team doesn't have one of those two, big problem. Dragon, not as necessary. It's nice, but it's not... Dragon type just isn't what it used to be. It used to be by far the best type. Fairy's kind of nerfed that. And I have stuff that can resist basically anything that dragon types resist. So not too worried about missing out on that. So that's part of the reason that I did not pick up another dragon type to help make up for dropping Guzzlord. So moving on to my fastest Mon. Cobalion. One of the Swords of Justice. Probably... not probably... Well, I forgot Raiyan exists. The middle of the Swords of Justice. Not as good as Terrakion. Better than Virizion, just in general. Its typing is awesome. Steel fighting's really good. Really hard defensively. It doesn't get recovery like every steel type, which is good, because if a lot of steel types got recovery, that would be a problem for the game. But sucks when they're on your team. Gives me Fighting Stab, which is really nice. Gives me another Stealth Rocker. It gets Volt Switch for some reason, so it gives me momentum. I can run Swords Dance on it, which is scary for a lot of teams if they don't have something that is a special attacker or faster than it. Because even most physical attackers that are super effective, if they don't run Banded, I can EV to live one hit, and a lot of times Revenge Kill. And I really like Cobalion's neck poof, the little beard he's got going on. I don't know if he's supposed to be a goat or what, but I really like Cobalion's design, and it's a Mon that I actually recently drafted in another league, and have not yet played a match. Got that match soon, but it's a Mon I've wanted to use for a while because I think it has a lot of potential, just because it gets rocks, momentum, and good stats, good typing. So, and was another one I picked up. I picked this up late, and actually after the draft. So it was by far, in my opinion, the best steel type left besides Scizor, and I didn't really want Scizor if I have Lele. Just didn't want that anti-synergy of Bullet Punch not working. And that starts to bring us to my quote-unquote low-tier Mons. First up, Tangela, which I am very, very excited I got. One issue I've always had with rain teams is running into other strong water types. Tangela, at least on the physical side, is going to eat every single hit. Deals with stuff like Rillaboom super well. Even specially, it's hard enough to take hits from electric moves and ground moves. Just in general, really good. Doesn't mind having to have Eviolite instead of something like Leftovers or Rocky Helmet, because Regenerator is so good. I have to be careful not to let people set up subs on it, but its special attack is good enough to where most stuff can't. Yeah, I've had issues playing against this Mon in the past. I've never drafted it, but I'm very excited to be using it now. Just in general, gets Sleep Powder, Spore, Knockoff, I think. At least, I'm assuming it does because Tangrowth gets Knockoff. But Knockoff just gives me a really, really good physical wall. And Regenerator Mon that I can keep switching out into my other pivots and switching it back in and taking hits. I think it'll work really well on my rain team, especially because in rain it doesn't have to worry about fire as much. Have to be careful about hurricanes, but it's pretty easy to tell what Mons are going to use Hurricane. So yeah, I'm once again really looking forward to use this Mon. I think it's going to do a lot of good work for me. I think I'm going to end up probably bringing this almost as much as a lot of my higher point cost mons, just because it works so well with my team. I think I've used Tangrowth before, and I made it all the way to a league finals with it. So hopefully Tangela can do better than its mom or dad or whatever Tangrowth is, and get me a championship this year. So next up is a mon I drafted specifically because someone else drafted Dracovish, and that is Cradily. I needed something with Water Absorber, Storm Drain. Crady's also not going to be taking... It's not weak to Crunch or Psychic Fangs. Can eat those hits pretty well. Resists Outrage. It resists Outrage and is immune to Water. So it's as good a Dracovish counter as you can really ask for. Can then set up Curses, can Synthesis. Recover, because I don't want to run Synthesis on this thing because Rain. So it can Recover, Leech Seed, Giga Drain, set up Rocks, Toxic. So it's in a couple matchups it's going to be really, really good. I don't actually know if I play the Dracovish trainer in the regular season, but I will, unless when I'm team building something changes, I will almost definitely be bringing Cradily that week, if for no other reason than deter them from bringing Dracovish, especially in the rain, because I don't have anything. I would be surprised if Tangela ate Vicious Rend in the rain, honestly. It's a silly move. I'm very excited to have this thing. I think it's funny. It's really, really good in randoms every once in a while. Get Suction Cup ability, which is something, but in general, this is a much more niche mon than any of the other ones that I've drafted and talked about. Still solid, but yeah, not much more to say than it. I probably wouldn't have drafted it if it wasn't for Dracovish, but gotta have something for Dracovish, so that's what I got for it. Now, moving into my final two mons, I have a mon that might come even less than Cradily. Not possibly, the most matchup-dependent mon on my team. Beartic. Basically got down to having 6 points left and was trying to figure out what to take, and I was like, well, having another Swift Swimmer, probably not bad. Having an Ice type is never bad. I've used this thing before and brought it exactly one time last time I had a rain team, and that one time I brought it, it did really well. Picked up like 4 kills. It was... In certain matchups, it has matchups, but it's still slower than a lot of stuff, even in rain. It's its biggest issue. It's slower than almost every Scarfer in rain. I think it's like 50 base speed or something, but it hits really hard, gets Aqua Jet, which is really nice. I don't know, we'll see. This one is probably the mon I'm least excited that I drafted, but I wanted another Swift Swimmer and didn't want another Water type, and figured an Ice type would be good. We'll see. If it had like 10 more base speed, I think it would be good, but it does not. I don't know. Not too much more to say about Beartic. I think it's fine. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. But that brings us to the final mon, Lickitung. So, why did I draft Lickitung out of all the one-pointers? Well, Lickitung gets the Cloud9 ability. So, if I have something, if my opponent has something that wants to click Hurricane or T-Bolt or even Weather Ball, or is just a water type in rain in general and I didn't bring Cradily, I switch in Lickitung. Weather effects go away, so the water move's gonna be doing normal damage. Hurricane and Thunder have normal accuracy. Weather Ball turns into a 50 base power normal move. Just in general, good to have, I think, on a weather team. I think having a Cloud9 Pokemon on a weather team might seem counterintuitive, but the Cloud9 Mon doesn't care if there's weather up. In fact, it's usually better for it if there's not. So, yeah, I think it's gonna do better than expected. I think it's gonna overperform. It is my second Eviolite Mon, but a lot of weeks it's gonna be tough to find room for both Tangela and Lickitung. So, yeah, I think it rounds out my team really nicely. I was really excited to be able to pick it up with literally the last pick in the draft is what I had. I drafted 16th, by the way, out of 16. That's why I went with a rain team, is because I could grab Zapdos and Mega Swampert at the same time. So that is one thing that was a factor during this draft, was having a wheel pick is really nice. Having the 16th pick means I couldn't get something like Dragapult, though Dragapult did fall to like 10 in this draft, which is wild. So yeah, I was, with last pick of the draft, getting a 1-point Lickitung. I was kind of surprised it was still there. I was very excited to be able to pick it up. Yeah, I'm looking forward to using it. Gives me a Wish Passer. Looks funny. It's pink. It's got a huge tail for no reason. Yeah, just in general, I think it's going to do well. And gives me a much needed special wall, which I didn't really have a great one up until this point. Nidoqueen can kind of, but doesn't really want to. I was going to be relying on Assault Vest a lot, if not for this thing. So, but yeah, that is my draft for Season 3 of the YCL Speed Tour. Really looking forward to playing. I think the other coaches in my group are Davey, Raiyan, New, Kevin RL11, Detective Butters, Genesis, and what's the last one? Oh, Grant. Grant is the last one. And those are the 8 teams in my division. I need to get top 4 to go to playoffs. So 4 and 4 4 and 3 would most likely get me in. I mean, last time I think I went 6 and 1, so I'm hoping to do 7 and 0. But we'll see how that goes. I've got all 3 commissioners in my division, so that's scary for sure. And I think this league's competitiveness on the site is all the way up at a 4, which is crazy competitive. It's up there with leagues like the WBE, which, if you don't know, is the league that coaches like PokeAim and MV and Wolfie are in, which it's wild that, and I'm honored that I get to compete in a league that's at that level. So thank you, Sen, for getting me into Season 2, and thank you to New, Detective Butters, and Davey once again for making this league what it is. Looking forward to playing everybody, and best of luck. All right, signing off.